We welcome to the show Zach Lyons of the Football and Other F Words podcast from Broadway Sports Media. Zach, good morning, show. Good morning, sir.
Show.
How are you?
This is a good morning show. I always like getting on to talk about football first thing in the morning. It's better than caffeine and coffee for me.
We're off and running today. We're going to talk. You're working on some stuff about the Titans, sort of a SWOT analysis of this Titans team as it heads into the offseason, so we'll discuss some of that today on the show. The playoff format for college football has been discussed and maybe settled on for the foreseeable future as the NFL has expanded, so we'll discuss sort of some of the strengths and weaknesses of both of those playoff formats. Obviously, there was some Titans Stadium news over the weekend that I know you guys have talked a lot about at Broadway Sports Media, so we'll get into that. And then jersey, number, banner, ceremonies. Do we love it? Do we hate it? Does it need to be fixed? All that good stuff. So we'll get into that a little bit later on as well. Make sure you're checking out the Football and Other Efforts podcast, BroadwaySportsMedia.com, as I'm having a very difficult time speaking today on the show. And as well, the Kingston Group. Special thanks to our top sponsor here on the 440 every single morning, brought to you by the Kingston Group, Nashville's award-winning, locally owned custom home and remodeling firm. They've been in the market for over 10 years doing work. We trust them at my family to use the Kingston Group, so you should too. BuildKG.com is the website, BuildKG.com. So Tuesdays, Zach, we like to have longer conversations about football. And one of the topics you're working on right now is just taking a step back, conducting a SWOT analysis of this Titans team. So number one, where can people find it? What was the goal behind wanting to execute this plan?
Basically, you can find it at BroadwaySportsMedia.com. All my written content is always there. It's a really great website that everybody should be going to. Our goal with Broadway Sports Media has always been to provide something a little bit more intellectual, but something easier to wrap your head around too, right? Like, that is also my goal with the SWOT analysis. SWOT analysis is, for those who may not know, is something coming from a business background like I have that's been drilled in my head since I was in DECA in 2003 or 2002, 2003. So it's something that's always been in my head. And so I was trying to put together something, throwing some stuff up against the wall. I want to go position by position and look for a different angle to provide people with. And I think the SWOT analysis provides that, because while there's many strengths or weaknesses, opportunities and threats for each position, I wanted to provide something a little bit out of the box conceptually that's easy to digest, but you also learn something. And you know, to me, when you got other Titan sites writing articles about bold predictions in a tweet from a beat writer in another city, what good is that? Like, what good is it that Omar Kelly said when he was asked for a bold prediction, mind you, when he says, Mike Gesicki, Tennessee Titans, write it down. And people are acting like, does this mean that Mike Gesicki is coming to the Titans? No, it's a bold prediction. That kind of shit just doesn't fly with me.
This is the college football head coaching carousel media, where like as soon as a head coach is either fired or retired or takes another job, there's 4 billion articles on the internet about here are 12 candidates that would be great for the job, and not a single human being that writes any one of those has actual information to report that any of those names are actually interested or attached. It's just bloviating onto the internet, and especially when you ask someone for a bold take.
Yeah,
like just
someone wrote a whole article. I don't know if it's Titans Wire, Titan Sized. Is one of those kind of bigger websites that are owned by USA Today or something. But like, what good is that for anybody? I mean, okay, big whoop. So Omar Kelly said that. Let me tell you something. Mike Gesicki is not a tight end that the Titans are probably interested in based on John Robinson's history. We're sitting here going into year 7 for John Robinson. I think we all know by now that they're looking for versatile players, not one-trick ponies, no matter how good they are. And if they're going to spend $10 to $12 million on a position group a year on average, they would have paid Jonnu Smith, who they loved.
Yeah,
like it just doesn't make sense to me.
Do you need a second to cool down?
I know. I got it all off track. But I'll tell you what.
Well, let me ask you, because I find the threats the most interesting part of this. And again, if you want to read position by position and go in depth with Zach, make sure you're checking out the website. But just for the sake of this conversation, sort of looking at the entire team from a SWOT standpoint, the threats to me, like I know where their strengths are, I know where their weaknesses are. I certainly know where the opportunities are. You've already mentioned the tight end position, but to me, the threat is really interesting because it's not a weakness. It's where could there become a weakness? And
Right.
where have you found the threat part of this Titans roster?
Well, I'll look at it this way. I think quarterback is obviously not only is the biggest threat, but it's not necessarily the quarterback Ryan Tannehill himself. It's the complacency that surrounds the passing game that involves the quarterback. The PFF and quarterback annual just came out on Monday. It's a fantastic read every year because they just dive deep into the film. They dive deep into everything. And while Tannehill was on the higher side of turnover worthy plays, which we all know, he's one of the top 10 best quarterbacks in the league still. When you look at a lot of these metrics, I mean, he's way up there. I mean, even Greg Rosenthal, who does a quarterback index, he is a top 12 quarterback, according to Greg Rosenthal, even based on the 2021 film.
Can I ask you before, because I know you're going to back up all this with really good information. Why does anyone care whether or not he's the 8th rated quarterback or the 13th rated quarterback or the what this is sort of falling into that internet hot list clicky thing that you're talking about. Like, why does it matter where he's ranked? Honestly.
I think it matters when you look at the strength of the quarterback position group. And this was in the article. And I try to avoid the word durability to not, knock on wood, not jinx anything. But you're talking about out of quarterbacks who have played 50 games since 2019, hasn't missed a game. He's been available and he's been stable for the most part throughout his career. He himself has been stable. Things around him have not. Now, obviously that he's not consistent enough in the playoffs, but when you look at the regular season, you got to have a good regular season to get in the playoffs. And I think that matters because, no major health concerns, winning seasons, playoffs, you got stability, durability. The Titans organization has had a hard time finding that guy. And 85% of the league, I would say, is probably very envious of the quarterback situation in Tennessee since he's taken over in 2019. And this stuff matters because teams rarely do big name quarterback trades because the alternative of the unknown in terms of health, play, scheme fit, longevity, money are all crucial factors for teams when they make quarterback decisions. And just on this past Monday, there is a study that shows that quarterback play has risen. While the ceiling has risen, the floor has risen too. So take the Seahawks, for example. They're not going to trade away Russell Wilson because who are they going to get to replace him? And Pete Carroll at his age is in win now mode. And if you're in win now mode, this stuff matters to show you in context that Ryan Tannehill is not as bad as the 2021 season made him look to be. And I think, while the rankings and stuff don't matter itself, the stats themselves matter. When you look at, he's elite in getting the ball. And this is not, well, we're on video too. He's elite at getting the ball in the chest breadbasket area. He is a 68% passer completion percentage in all of his passes go right into the breadbasket. And it is a huge blue dot, which means it is super elite.
If you're not watching on the YouTube channel, which you should, 440 Sports, go check it out. Zach is motioning heavily to his breadbasket area.
Yeah,
there's a lot of motioning towards the breadbasket, which is making me a little uncomfortable, but it's fine. it's totally fine. We could go. I mean, obviously, we will spend countless numbers of hours debating Ryan Tannehill. I think we talked about it last week on the Tuesday edition of our first ever long form 440, which is. He can win a championship. We all kind of agree he can win a championship. He just needs, as Mike Vrabel has pointed out, and John Robinson, they need to be almost elite all the way around him. I will argue with anyone that he's just simply not that good. He's just not a top 10 quarterback. I think he's good with this team in this system. He was definitely good. He was definitely good with Jonnu Smith and with Arthur Smith. And now they need to replace some of those pieces. Hopefully Tim Kelly does that from a schematic standpoint, and hopefully some investment in the weapons this offseason is the secondary piece of that. Let me throw a thread at you that I want to see what you think about. Because I was reading through your articles and I'm going, to me, I don't really like the threat to me for the Titans writ large is just the NFL. Because I'm not really worried about any one particular, I trust John Robinson and his front office's ability to find talent and acquire talent, work the salary cap magic. I trust Mike Vrabel to develop players and make them better and make them fit within the system. I sort of trust the operation to run. But the nature of the NFL is that everything the NFL does is constructed to sort of take your team down. like
Right.
and that's like, to me, the biggest threat to me is just you have a small chance to win, and maintaining that pace is very difficult. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think if I had to choose, probably it would be in my top 4 threats is just this 2022 offseason. Everything is tight, right? Like it seems to me that the AFC is really top heavy and tight where it matters. And the Titans don't have a lot of wiggle room either. And you look at now, they can free up all kinds of cash. Will they? Who knows? Should they? Probably. But to maintain competitive edge, you have to get your salary cap situation sorted out. You have to hit on your free agency and your draft. Your free agency is for the window now. Your draft should be treated as your window for the future. Now, obviously, you want some maybe year one contributors, but this team has shown it's not going to rush any draft pick, no matter what round they were picked into the lineup if they're not ready. And they are perfectly okay with basically guys learning and not contributing year one. And so to me, this team looks at it as we're building with the future in mind while also building through free agency, keeping the window open currently.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see. And again, if you want to follow along, make sure you check out Broadway Sports Media at F Words Pod, of course, the Twitter account. You'll be posting all the stuff for.
Yeah, it'll be every Monday, Wednesday, Friday until the legal tampering window begins.
I love a good legal tampering.
Yeah, legal tampering.
I haven't done any legal tampering in a long time. Playoff format. So the college football people announce all the fancy golfers with their bow ties and their suspenders. They all announced on Friday that they're not going to expand. And of course, the NFL is now in year 2 of the expanded format with 14 teams. It's hard to argue. Like, it did benefit the Titans, but also didn't because it didn't actually result in anything. But they did get the bye. I'm just curious. I think college football is making a huge mistake by arguing. I said this on Monday's show. I just think they're being petty and they're arguing about their own self-interest without acknowledging that without expansion, it's the sport itself as a whole is going to be hurt by this. And the NFL, I thought at first I really hated the expansion of the playoff. I thought, no, I like 2 teams that get the bye because it's really hard to get to that 1 seed. But it's hard to really, like, even as a guy who doesn't like change, Zach, it is hard to argue with the product and the drama delivered on the field from the divisional round on. Now, the wild card round left a little bit to be desired, but the divisional round on football this year in the NFL was spectacular.
You think so? Because I think there were 3 good games, and that doesn't include the Super Bowl. And I thought that and I'm not including the Titans-Bengals game. So I'm not a homer. I don't think it was that. I think you look at the Bills game, the Chiefs game, that was obviously the best game. It was great. I think that the Chiefs and Bengals game would probably be second. And I don't know if you put San Francisco Rams or Packers San Francisco, but I lean San Francisco Rams, I guess. But to me, they're all kind of forgettable. I saw Alan Bell say the same thing, so you're not alone. And I'm thinking found the playoffs to be boring.
TV ratings agree with me. America agrees with me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, America's always going to watch the NFL. Football's on. Well, football's going to be watched.
I think your best argument, and I've heard many people say this, like there was great drama. They weren't great games. And I'm okay. Yeah. I just think my first priority as a fan is give me great drama. Like entertain me first, and I'll take that over a boring, and then the next priority is, was it extremely well played and high level and
did it live up to the hype though? Because you look at it, you would think Bengals Raiders kind of exceeded the hype of what you thought that game may be. And then you look at, San Francisco Green Bay, there's drama, it's Jimmy G, it's Aaron Rodgers. Can he get over the playoff hump? But was it a fun? Did it live up to that drama? Like, to me, that's where I feel like the NFL's I feel like football's lacking a little bit of
college for sure
drama. Yeah. And drama equals what you see on the field. You can get all this drama hyped up, and then what you see on the field doesn't really lend credence to it. And maybe that's a media problem. Maybe the media is overhyping games and building up storylines that really don't matter.
Well, I guess, and some of it's just personal. Like I'm totally fine because let's take the Packers and Niners game, which by all accounts, like not even close to comparable to the Bills and Chiefs game in terms of how it was played and how it unfolded and the drama and the talent and the skill and the scoring and the offense. Like I'm okay watching a very low scoring game without a lot of points. And in particular, that game gave us a couple of different things that I enjoy, which is number one, the elements, having snow just take over the game in the second half, I think is just a unique thing that's fun. And a block kick swinging, a giant, crazy, stupid swing of momentum, I find really interesting. And I think it's Aaron Rodgers going against Kyle Shanahan and an unbelievable defense run by D'Amico Ryans. Like I just think it's very high level stuff, even if it's not a lot of scoring. And so I can watch 9-6 games if I think it's high scoring. If it's 9-6 and it's crap and it's just garbage,
if it's like Jaguars and Bills earlier in the year,
right, then I don't want to watch it. But I would I love the Super Bowl. I love the Super Bowl as a non-fan of either team. Watching quarterbacks struggle, I enjoy that because every other week of the NFL season, we don't watch them struggle. They just sling it all over the place. You said the floor is high.
Yeah. I mean, I get it. I mean, I guess if you're looking at it from strictly one position group dominating another on both sides of the ball, then sure. Yeah. I mean, some of that, I look at it from an overall perspective. Like you talk about playoff expansion in the college football and not expanding could ultimately kill it. Well, what's the difference in Ole Miss getting obliterated 42-12 in the opening round of a playoffs against Alabama or Georgia? Like, to me, it doesn't change anything, this expansion. You're still going to have the same teams, the same fans, the same complaints, the same everything, because ultimately the top four are the top four for a reason, right? I mean, they're the four best teams. Arguably, you can always say number four, well, maybe number five should be in, or when Notre Dame gets in, they should never be in. But you're going to get the same thing if you allow 8 teams in the playoffs, and you're still going to have people complain about it. And will it really improve recruitment? If you're a recruit and you see Ole Miss get obliterated by Alabama in the regular season, then get obliterated by Alabama in the playoffs, what good does that do for? And I'm sorry to be picking on Ole Miss fans. It's
fine.
It's the first thing. They're the team that was on the outside looking in a lot of people's cases.
And they deserve it because they're kind of annoying. But Oxford is like one of the greatest places in the world to go to a game.
Oh, it's great.
So there's the compliment sandwich. I think it does a couple of different things. Playoff for expansion. Number one, it creates the illusion of an opportunity. The NCAA tournament does this. Like teams celebrate Sweet 16s. Like you put a banner at Memorial Gymnasium, there are banners for Sweet 16s. And so what's a Sweet 16 really as an accomplishment? What is it really? Like you got
16th place ultimately. Someone is 16th place in a tournament.
But you celebrate it, and getting to the Final Four, you celebrate that like it's a huge accomplishment. And a lot of those schools and those teams, those are teams that come back for decades to celebrate that accomplishment. And if a school like Ole Miss, and again, what you're doing is creating the illusion of opportunity in college football. And this is the problem. Like Tennessee, Kentucky this past season was a phenomenal football game.
Right.
It was unbelievable. Great drama, great excitement, great quarterbacks, time of possession, big plays, whatever. If that game held an at-large playoff spot, that game becomes even better. And so what we're doing is we're taking a little bit of shine off the top games, Alabama, Auburn, or Ohio State, Michigan, or Clemson, Georgia, whatever it might be. You're taking a little bit of shine off those games and adding a whole lot of value to like 30 or 40 other games. And then you're giving Kentucky and Ole Miss and Tennessee, like these middle-class programs, a chance to just get in. And just getting in is sort of like the Sweet 16 or the Final Four banner. You get to celebrate that accomplishment, and because getting in will be a huge deal. And frankly, teams 5 through 12, those will be great games. We're going to see a lot of good games between those teams. But I agree, it's still going to be Bama, Clemson, or Bama, Georgia.
Right. I mean, like ultimately, I think I like that argument. Right. I like the argument you just posed, because that's not an argument I've really heard most people say. Most people say, well, it improves recruitment, or you'll see more teams in the Final Four, different teams in the Final Four. Because ultimately, I don't think either of those things really happen. And you're right. I don't take into this new thing where participation trophies are celebrated. That's just not that's not who I am,
It's not
and
you.
not who I was raised. So like participation trophies. I mean, if you're a Titans fan, everybody makes fun of the Colts hanging up those banners, but I guess if you're a college fan, you want those banners everywhere you can get. And
I mean, if you're Iowa State, like you should celebrate getting to the playoff. Since Cincinnati should celebrate getting into the playoff. Like,
but
and it's
they
not like
lost.
well,
I mean, like
I agree.
yeah,
I agree. No, I agree. Listen, I'm with you. I'm
yeah,
with you. I'm a championship or bust kind of guy, but that's an NFL thing, right? Like it's
yeah.
Super Bowl championship or bust, and that's the beauty of the playoffs in the NFL, though, is that everybody's even. Like you get into the playoffs, anybody can win. That's why we had 2 4 seeds playing
Right.
in the Super Bowl. That's not the way college works, and so you have to figure out ways to create value for other fan bases. And all we did was a bunch of commissioners in charge, like tricked us and teased us by putting
Yeah.
out a bunch of information saying, hey, we're going to expand. It's going to be super cool and fun, and your school's going to benefit. And then they got into a room and like argued with themselves with their rich friends about all the things they're not going to
And it was in a
accomplish.
room in a Best Western because the selection committee watching the games on some of these times it was the most pitiful way to watch football. I've never seen anything as bad. It's just, I get it. As a society, everybody loves a good, hey, at least you tried. I mean, everybody loves that. To me, it's just from the perspective of is championship or bust. I think it creates the illusion, but then you're gonna have these the reality set in, and everybody's gonna be like, well, this didn't really fix anything, and then people are gonna be like, well, maybe if we expanded a little bit more, and then it just where does it stop?
Well, safety. Hopefully, player safety stops that.
Yeah,
which I think will happen in college again.
And
in the NFL, go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let me ask this because I want to go back to this Kentucky-Tennessee game. That game was played November 6th. How do you know what the implications are? Is there going to be a new system of ranking teams and that is a little bit more definitive or holds a little bit more weight? That's my question.
No, I don't. The thing is, I don't think you need that. All you need now, Tennessee has to be better. Like they have,
right?
Let's assume that they're on the same level of Kentucky, and they're both vying for a 10-2 season, which Kentucky won 10 games this year. Let's say they're both vying for 10-2, and they play in the middle of October. Well, the winner of that game's got a chance to get into the playoff if they're both sitting there at 6-1, right?
Yeah.
The winner of that game's got a chance to get into the playoff, even if they don't win the division, because we know they can't beat Georgia. And but if they finish 10-2 like Ole Miss did this past year, they can get into the playoff. And then maybe as a 9 seed, you're playing an 8 seed, and that 8 seed is like Baylor, and maybe you could beat that team in the playoff, and then you have a playoff win under your belt. And the difference between participation trophies is a little strong in my opinion, because in the NFL, all 32 teams are playing the same game with the same rules. It's the most socialist sport in all of America, which is ironic, of course, for considering its audience.
Yeah.
But college football is the most capitalistic sport in America, where the biggest teams have all the gold and make all the rules, and nobody like Middle Tennessee State's not playing the same sport as Tennessee.
Right.
They're just not. So and Vanderbilt, even in the SEC, is not playing the same sport as Alabama.
Well, that's because they choose that.
Right.
To be fair.
Yeah, I agree. But again, recruiting base, like again, college football will never have the same rules for all 130 teams. So as long as the rules are different, you should not have the same expectations for everybody. Whereas in the NFL, you have the exact same rules for all 32 teams. Everyone has an equal starting spot and an equal finishing spot. And that's why the NFL is the most popular sport in the world, because they figured out how to keep everyone interested every day of the year.
You may have me rethinking my stance on college football. I may be a little bit more lenient. So
right. How about let me see if I can get you to the stadium news broke on Friday, and it's pretty much been covered, and I don't think it's very difficult. I talked about it again on my Friday show on here on this show, and I think once you get to a certain price point, $700, $800, $900 million for a renovation, you have to decide, what do we want to be as a city? And at that point, what's the difference in 900 million versus 1.4 billion if you can get the Super Bowl, the Final Four, and the college football playoff to come to Nashville? So to me, this is, do we want to stay a small, kind of cool counterculture sports town, or do we want to join the big time ranks? And some people may not want to join the big ranks and be considered a Super Bowl town. But if you put a roof on the stadium, we're going to get a Super Bowl. I know for a fact we're going to get a college football playoff, and the Music City Bowl would become that. And we would get a Final Four because we can host a party like nobody's business. So to me, the question, all that matters here, and assuming the Strunk family wants to pay a big chunk of this, and taxpayers aren't hurt too poorly. It's sort of what do we want to be as a town? And I'm all for going for the big events. I'm all for that, selfishly.
Yeah, I think that if you're even if you're a native Nashvilleian, I've been in Nashville or at least the surrounding area since 2002. So I was here, before there was like 50 cranes in the sky every day and there's horrible traffic. I want the city to become a more football forward town, because let's be honest here. Yeah, the Titans are an NFL team, but it is more so an attraction for outside fans going to the game. The diehard core, in my opinion, of Titans fans is not as big as it should be compared to other NFL cities. Whereas, the Predators are ingrained in this city. I feel like Nashville Soccer Club, they are just growing and growing and growing in fans, because not only are the games more affordable, but they're really fun and the experience is fun. The new stadium, I'm all for it. Bring it to me. Get rid and get us out of that stadium that's in there right now, because it's not worth the stadium itself and the in-game experience provided by probably the limitations of the stadium's infrastructure.
Yeah.
Is not worth what you're paying for now. And I believe they've already rose a little bit in PSL prices. And it's hard for me. It's not worth going to the game at this point. Yeah. A new stadium changes my outlook on that. And people who these PSL current season ticket holders who are already worried about the prices going up. Well, the Atlanta Falcons built a new stadium and their concession prices dropped dramatically. There is a way for, and the Strunk family and the people heading up the Titans organization are actively looking for ways. And I guess nobody wanted to read this. And when you look at Twitter replies and Facebook replies, they're actively looking for ways to lessen or eliminate the burden from the city. I mean, they don't want the city to really pay for it. Is that feasible? I don't know how much money they have. Maybe it is, but at some point, if you want the Super Bowl, you get a retractable roof and you don't lose any of the value of anything. It just improves everything.
And you can make it grass too. It needs to be grass. I'm all for grass.
Yeah, it's gotta be grass.
Listen, it's all about, like, when we spent however much we spent on Bridgestone Arena, we had no idea the financial boon that would be for the economy and how Lower Broadway, what it became 25, 30 years later. That's, adding the Titans to our market changed the city forever. Adding the Preds to the market changed the city forever. Like, there's no question about this. And so you have to sort of view, like, how much is the football family let's be honest, when billionaires ask for money, it's never popular. That's just the way it is. And we just had this really long, protracted fight as a market with Nashville SC, even though Nashville SC Stadium, which is about to open here in a couple of months, is arguably the greatest stadium deal in the history of metropolitan politics. Like, we're basically paying nothing for the stadium. And it's the biggest soccer-only stadium in the country. And so I think some of the city should take on some of it, but I think by and large, if the family's willing to pay for a big chunk of it, we can figure out how to make it work, because I think the long-term ramifications of having a Super Bowl in our city and a college football playoff or national championship game and a Final Four, and have those things part of a rotation that comes through Nashville every 15 or 20 years, the economics to me will pay for itself. So
I'll throw in another sport that's not being talked about is SummerSlam's already coming to Nissan Stadium. You improve you improve that stadium at Nissan, you're getting a WrestleMania.
What is SummerSlam? What is that?
SummerSlam is the summer version of WrestleMania. So WrestleMania is the big one. SummerSlam is their second biggest pay-per-view, and it's the party of the summer. So at Nashville is going to be pretty crazy, because I've been to a WrestleMania in Dallas in their new stadium. So I've been to Dallas's new stadium twice now.
You're a wrestling
Cowboys game in that.
You're a wrestling guy?
Huge wrestling guy.
So what was the thing that happened the Friday night before the Titans game? What was that?
That was a SmackDown. It was a SmackDown. So it's just their regular Friday programming.
Okay. I have lots of questions about wrestling.
Yeah. So. Well, I'm huge in wrestling. I got right over here my New Day Funkos back behind me. They're a wrestling group.
Are you speaking English still?
Still speaking English. But I will say this: WrestleMania is great too. I mean, it's not as big as a Super Bowl, but you got to think, you get events like that. You're going to get bigger concerts, and Nissan Stadium is already getting, like, they've had the Rolling Stones, they've had Beyonce.
Elton
You
John
get bigger.
coming.
You get bigger concerts and more people wanting to come to your place. This idea that football stadiums can't be similar to Bridgestone Arena, if you do the acoustics right in that stadium, when the retractable dome is shut and open, you're going to have the possibility for so much more than just sports for your town. And if that means higher, you're going to pay for it either way. You're either going to pay for it in your taxes, or you're going to pay for it in your season ticket prices going up. You're paying for it either way. It's a lot better than the piece of crap stadium that they're in now. It's one of the worst stadiums in the NFL. It's a bottom half stadium.
I was in there on Sunday, and it was like, there's like a nice room in the whole building. I will say this has been my idea for like 6 years since I've been on the air in Nashville, and that is to build a brick facade, 3 or 4 stories, that looks exactly like First Avenue on the river, like literally on the river. Put the stadium on the river. There's probably space between the Titan Stadium and the river from where that parking lot and the little greenway is. Put it on the river, put 2 or 3 walking bridges, build entertainment district, 3-4 story tall bars into the stadium itself that are sort of attached but outside, so that you can go party and drink and tailgate and have all the music and the live stuff, and it feels like it's attached to Broadway. Put walking bridges over and put a retractable roof on it. Like, I know that I'm not an architect, I'm not a politician, I don't have any qualifications to do any of this, but to me, that's the way you cohesively bake it into the entertainment district of downtown to make it even more enjoyable for people to go, especially people from outside of town. So I don't know.
Copy the way that Pittsburgh has their city infrastructure and their stadiums, because they have a baseball stadium and a football stadium almost right next to each other. And of course, they have a great hockey team too. That is the city that is in realistic grasp for Nashville to model their sports version after. Obviously Nashville offers way more, in my opinion, food wise, drinks wise, fun wise, you livability wise, everything. I mean, our bridges are not falling apart.
So you're saying you're saying we're better than Pittsburgh.
We are better than Pittsburgh as far as not sports related, but they are a better sports city.
All right, we'll wrap up. We're going along here today. Long form 440, of course, brought to you by the Kingston Group. Make sure you check them out. BuildKG.com is the website. If you have a big project at your house, they are the people to talk to. You may not even use them, but I guarantee you they will help you make your decision. So check out the Kingston Group. BuildKG.com is the website. We'll wrap up today with, a huge week for the Predators. As you mentioned, Bridgestone Arena. They will retire Pekka Rinne's jersey, the first ever in franchise history, on Thursday evening. We got the Stadium Series coming up at aforementioned Nissan Stadium on Saturday. They're back on the ice tonight on Tuesday evening against Florida on the road at 6 p.m. That is the best team in the Eastern Conference. So we've got a lot of big hockey coming up this week. I'm just curious. I'll be going to both Thursday and Saturday, and I'm just curious what you think of, we just talked about banner hanging and stuff. I think teams should hang a banner if you win a division. I think the Titans should put a little year up, like put 2021 up as AFC South champs. Like I'm all for, obviously I'm partial to Floyd Reese as someone who knew him pretty well, like put him in the Ring of Honor. Pekka obviously deserves to have a jersey retired. I don't care as much about being there to see it all happen, but I do think it's fun that Nashville is starting to get sports teams that actually have things to put up on walls like that.
Yeah, I think it's good. I'm a little, all this stuff gets a little watered down for me. I'm a little, okay, so it's Pekka Rinne's big night, coming up, and he's getting his jersey retired. Are they going to dedicate the night to him in full, or are they going to choose some role player on the Dallas Stars and do a thank you tribute video or whatever they're doing nowadays? I mean, give me a break in celebrating these role players that come into your town. I think that's silly. It's also silly to me, when Zach Randolph left the Memphis Grizzlies and went to another team, 2 days, or maybe not even 2 days, almost probably 24 hours after it was announced he was going to another team, Memphis announces that they're going to hang his jersey and retire his jersey. He just left your team. Yeah, I get it. He should definitely get his jersey retired because it's more of a symbol. But do you really need to announce it while he still actively played basketball? Like that kind of stuff. I think pomp and circumstance matters, and I think timing matters. And some of the stuff that these teams tend to do drives me nuts. But I'm with you. I'm glad to see that, the Predators are being able to retire someone jersey that really means a lot to them. And I wouldn't be surprised if Shea Weber, and all these other guys that meant so much to this Predators team get the same kind of treatment later on down the road.
There needs to be a line. Like, we don't need a tribute video for Corey Davis.
Yeah.
Like, I love Corey Davis. I think he was an underrated player and had a nice little stint here in town. I don't think Corey Davis deserves a tribute video at Nissan Stadium if the Jets come back to Nashville or whatever in 2 years.
I would have a hard time being a fan of the Titans and going back to a game if they did something silly like that.
Division championship. I think you absolutely can put a division championship like the way you see in baseball stadiums, right, where there's a number of pennants you've won or whatever. And Pekka is the greatest player in franchise history. I'm okay with that. Again, same thing with Floyd Reese. Floyd Reese meant so much to this organization. I think it's okay for him to be in the Ring of Honor. I think there needs to be a pretty selective line, but as long as you've got a pretty selective line on what you're doing, if you're, I don't think you put up like a 1 seed banner, like AFC's number 1 seed. Like, I don't like that. But I think division championships, what do you think about an AFC championship game? I don't even think you do that either.
No, I don't think what do you put AFC championship game
appearance
if you lose? I mean, now if you're a winner and you're AFC champion, AFC South champion. Yes, I agree. You should put those up because those are tangible victories for you in some form or fashion. But just participating in a game, nah, I'm good. If that game is a reminder to fans that, oh man, do you remember that play where so and so fumbled or so and so did this, or it conjures up bad memories for me.
I'm with you. So selfishly, check out the Gold Standard podcast this week. We got a ton, of course, to talk about with Pekka's jersey retirement and the Stadium series. What are you guys talking about on the F Words pod this week?
Well, we're having Austin Huff on from the Tighten Up podcast, and we are going to talk. First off, we're going to hash out our beef because we have some faux media beef that we've made up.
Well, and Austin's been spending all the last 3 years trying to create beef.
And then we're going to talk about mainly dive into the stadium aspect, and I'm going to ask him about this uncle aunt thing that pops up on not only on his podcast but also on J. Martin Ramon. Who had it first? Why is it a thing? I'm very interested.
I've been Uncle Braden a few times, and you're right. I don't know. I don't understand. It's all in the fam. I don't know. We'll see. So go check it out. Football and Other F Words at F Words Pod on Twitter, of course, at Mr. Lebowski. You and Michael Gillum do a great job with that episode every single Tuesday. Of course, everywhere you get your pods, and make sure you're staying tuned to BroadwaySportsMedia.com, the website, of course, that carries all the great content for you guys up there. SWOT analysis being unveiled as we speak. So thank you guys for hanging out. Again, longer episode. We understand that. That's going to be sort of what we're going to do on Tuesdays with Zach. We're going to talk football, and we're going to spend a little bit more time with you guys here on the 440. So thank you guys for listening. Rate, review, subscribe, share the show, tell everybody about it. We really, really appreciate it. And thanks to Kingston Group for being our great sponsor as well. My name is Braden Gall. Thank you guys for listening. This has been the 440 for Tuesday, February 22nd.